welcome everyone. In case, a couple of people might have missed, so I'm Rose McGeown. I'm one of the educational psychologists in WAAS. And today's workshop is around talking with your child about their autism diagnosis. Finally, I kind of really wanted to talk about talking to siblings, because this is something that we do get asked about quite a bit, because obviously it's quite a different conversation, because it's not about them being autistic, it's about their sibling being autistic. And this can raise some concerns or bring up questions. So I just wanted to talk about it. Again, some of the principles will be similar. So adapting the communication to suit their age and the level of understanding. So for the little ones, it might just be about noticing some things that they do and naming that, that is because they're autism, they're doing that to help themselves. I don't know if it's something to do with them maybe stimming, they're doing that because it helps them feel calmer, or kind of naming and labeling, I think, is a really nice place to start. They may already be aware that their sibling is different, so it might not be actually new news to them. It's more just giving a label to what they've already noticed. But do take time to understand how they are feeling, because it might be that they then worry about, catching autism. Is it contagious? They might have similar worries that I've already raised before, of if their sibling is been going to the hospital a lot or seeing the doctor a lot, they might be worried that their sibling's not very well. So just being mindful that there might be some anxieties about actually what is. So it's just important to share the information as well with them. But also they might be worried about some other things. So they might be worried about their siblings, behavior. Are they going to get hurt, or are they worried about caring responsibilities? Is it that they're thinking that now they need to do, contribute more to the care of their siblings? So just having those conversations and just reassuring them about some of these things. And what I would also say is trying to include older children or adolescents, or maybe if there's any young adults that you have as children, in the future plans, just so they feel included and can share their views as well. So just really having them as part of the support system. And if they are part of that support system, allowing them to share their views about it as well, so they feel that they can contribute. Especially, I think, if they're a bit older and they might really be worrying about things like caring responsibilities and not sure, how they can help or how they can support. So yeah, just being kind of mindful about those things. But what we also do have in WAAS is we do have a siblings group. So we run it. It tends to be in, I think it's the half terms on the whole, or slightly depends, to be honest, who signed up. But in that group, it gives the children a nice opportunity to kind of come together and share their experiences of what it's like to have a sibling with autism, the really positive things about that, but also some of the challenges about that, and kind of share some of those feelings, which we found is actually a really, really nice space for them to come to. Charlotte, I can see that your hand's up and you know quite a bit about this topic, so please feel free to jump in.
Well, no, I was just going to say, Nina has typed a question in the chat box.
Oh, okay.
With regards to talking to siblings about autism, what's the best way to discuss this with siblings who are both autistic? So that's a tricky one. So you've kind of got two angles going on. You've got them understanding themselves, and then also their brother or sister who may be like on a very different part of the spectrum to they are. So even if they're both autistic, their understanding of autism could be quite different. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And actually, this is making me think of a point that I probably haven't really raised very well, is this idea of there being a spectrum. So even though we're saying, what we're talking about today is autism, thinking that even everyone with autism is completely different. So what it might be quite nice then is to think about, for your two children, thinking between them, what are their similarities and differences, but also introducing this idea of there being a spectrum. So everyone with autism has a very unique profile, and there are some nice visual tools that we sometimes use. So rather than seeing, I guess traditionally a spectrum has been seen from kind of less able, or like needing a lot more support, to being more able, so along that kind of spectrum. which now we're kind of moving away from that because it's not a very accurate or helpful way to view people with an autism diagnosis. So instead, we think about an autism spectrum really being about a wheel, and within the wheel, there are different segments. So each segment is a different skill or a different area of development. So it might be like a communication segment. So is it that communication is a strong point for them or an area that they need more support with? Another area might be their emotional regulation, might be sensory needs, and kind of we can send some examples, but almost having a wheel of all the different skills that we're considering. And you could do one, you know, for yourself as well as an example, almost modeling it to the child. So helping them to understand that they both have what's called autism, but actually they both have their own unique strengths and challenges as well. But yeah, it can be quite tricky, but I do think helping the individual to understand what it means for them first, I would say, was probably their priority, because then they can kind of understand then how that relates to somebody else. But we will share those resources because I think they're quite helpful to see the spectrum in a wheel as opposed to a line. Okay, is there any more questions about any more
Thanks a lot,
questions about
Rose.
siblings?
That's great.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
okay.
We've just got another little one here. Can children who are autistic attend the siblings group if they have an autistic sibling, or is it a group more for neurotypical siblings? So that's a really good question. Now, obviously, we are into inclusivity and diversity and everything at WAAS. So I would love to say that anyone can attend, but actually, the group is quite specifically tailored towards neurotypical peers, purely because it's designed to give them a space away from their autistic brother or sister where they can sort of focus on having some time for themselves and really sort of considering their own feelings and thoughts away from their brother or sister. So it is quite unique in that respect, and it's quite valuable for sort of meeting other brothers and sisters in similar positions as well, because often young people find they have a lot in common, even if they are not a young carer per se, as in they're not expected to take on any caring responsibilities. They still might carry those sort of similar types of worries about their brother or sister, like what's going to happen when they're an adult, will they be able to live independently, where will they live? All of those kind of questions are often going on in the minds of siblings, and lots of parents, you know, kind of shy away from addressing that or bringing it out into the open because it feels like a really tricky topic. So yeah, the siblings group is great for just sort of having fun. Obviously, it's got a social focus, and we do some sort of art and craft activities, some games. We made a really nice collage last time, and then we have some kind of like snack foods and discussion about our autistic brother or sister, like what we love about them, what we find tricky about spending time with them, all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, I would say that it's better suited for sort of brothers and sisters that are neurotypical, purely because it is supposed to be a kind of special safe place away from autism. So even though that is the undertone, the subject sort of in the background, it's much more the focus is on them being not autistic, I would say. But if you are interested in the SIBS group, I can obviously send you out the flyer with a bit more information. We have a group screener for you to sign up and register your interest if you want to know more. But yeah, the next group will be May half term, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody else have any other
Charlotte, I was
questions?
just gonna add, sorry, in terms of groups as well, we do run other groups. So if it's that you want your child, you know, you think they would benefit, I guess, from coming to a group and developing, I don't know, relationships with others or developing like specific skills, and there are loads of other groups that they would still be able to come to. So it might still be they might still be able to come to something that is, you know, useful for them, even if it's not quite that group. So let me just move to the next one. So these were just some useful resources for siblings, and maybe this actually could be something that's still, you know, really useful to share. So thinking about, these are predominantly books actually, but they are just all for different ages. So thinking about, you know, the first one, My Family is Different. So thinking, just helping your child, your neurotypical child, to think about how their family might then therefore be a bit different because of their sibling, and how, you know, that's not a negative thing. It just means that there is a difference, and there might be some things that they notice that are different to their friends' families. So yeah, there's a real theme here about these are all different authors, but you know, my family is different, everyone is different, my brother is different, my sister is different. And for the older ones, there are some other specific ones there that I've included, but it can be quite nice just to have this separate conversation with your child who is a sibling of your autistic child, just so that they have the opportunity to really understand it themselves and ask questions and share any worries or yeah, anything that they've kind of noticed that they want to discuss. So I just wanted to share further support that is available in Wandsworth. So as I said previously, I would really encourage you to always go to your SENCO first. So the SENCO is Special Educational Needs Coordinator that will be linked to your child's school or nursery. And they, you know, will have a really good understanding of autism, and they can liaise with our service a lot. And I think it's really important that you share the diagnosis with your child's school so that they can make adaptations, are aware of you know, any additional support that they're going to need to put in place. That's really important. But then within the Wandsworth Autism Advisory Service, we have consultations available for parents and professionals. So if you ever just want to have a phone call and discuss a particular issue or particular topic that you would like a bit more information about, you can always book in for that, and as can professionals. So teachers, social workers, mental health professionals, they can all liaise with our service as well. We predominantly are an advisory service, so we are just giving advice to other people really. We do run the siblings group, like I've mentioned, but also other groups. So there is a power up group, which is teenage groups. We run one for boys and one for girls, specifically just exploring about what is autism, what it means for them. So once they know they have the diagnosis, they can then kind of join some of these groups to really understand a bit more what it means for them and meet other autistic young people in the borough. And we also have many other groups, so like emotional regulation groups, social skills groups. And if this is something that you are interested in, we can send out the form that allows you to kind of add your child's name for a future group. So we can do that. But I would say a lot of the support that enables your child to come to a group, they do kind of probably need to know that they've got a diagnosis, just because we do talk really openly in WAAS about autism. And, you know, we're talking always really positively and inclusively, but we don't really shy away from talking about, you know, actually autism. So for some children, if they weren't to know, it would be, you know, quite challenging. They wouldn't be quite sure why they're there, I don't think. Then we've got Contact Wandsworth within Wandsworth. So they run the Autism Parenting course. There is the National Autistic Society, which is just a brilliant charity that has loads of information about autism. They've got case studies, they have more courses that you can go on, loads and loads and loads of resources on there. There is, in theory, a National Autism Society branch in Wandsworth, but we don't think it's very active. But what I haven't added on to here, there are also a couple of other organisations that are local. So there is one called Lavender Girls that's mostly focused on teenage girls, and there is also a organisation called Send Talk, which runs some like youth clubs and groups for children with additional needs, including autism. So they are also a useful organisation.